Greetings, Captains. Welcome to another TFO training session. This time we'll cover Khitomer Vortex. Let's review objectives.
Initially, destroy the Borg cube guarding the conduits. Once it is down, attack both gateways. The gateways are protected by generators, which are in turn protected by transformers. Destroy the transformers and generators to make the gateways vulnerable, then destroy the gateways. During this phase, you must also prevent Borg probes from reaching the time vortex. This objective is mandatory on Elite. When the gateways are destroyed, defeat the assimilated warbird and its attendant ships that will arrive to stop you. There is a 10-minute time limit to completing this TFO, which is mandatory on Elite.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This TFO needs substantial coordination to play well on Elite, with all optionals and without dying. It is possible to complete in a public group, but a tank is usually needed for a deathless completion, and the time limit objective creates a fairly high DPS threshold compared to the rest of Star Trek Online. If you aren't already parsing over 250k DPS in ISE, we do not recommend you attempt this TFO, especially in a public setting. The enemy threat level is moderately high, as Borg will drain shields and deal a decent amount of damage, and there are many Borg ships, though they are not as clustered as in maps like Hive or Infected. For rewards, this TFO offers a moderate amount of Omega or Fleet Marks, along with a chance for Enchained Current Pieces. Lastly, this operation's duration is variable. While it is not time-gated, there are a large number of high hit point enemies, so while we could complete it in under 5 minutes, including the briefing, that was with at least 2 1 million DPS ships, a 500k heavy tank, and 2 other DPS ships above 500k on ISE. Your mileage may vary. The adversaries on this operation are Borg. Borg vessels have a powerful shield drain ability, so encounters with them need to account for low shield uptime. There are generally not too many at once, but there are a substantial number of assimilators and cubes to fight, so a tank would be helpful. The key part of this mission is the second stage, where probes from both gateways need to be intercepted before they can reach the time portal. You could simply station one player on goalkeeper duty, but we find that inefficient. Instead, we generally adopt either a 3-2 or 4-1 split. In the case of a 4-1 split, we prefer to have the solo player engage probes but also attack the peripheral Borg structures. This player is preferably in an exotic or projectile build, so that they can attack from long range without damage penalty, and apply large area of effects or damage over time abilities to wear down some of the structures without being in range. If the 1 or 2 players, the weak side players, can even partially whittle down some of the structures without neglecting probes, that will take time pressure off of the team. Lastly, in the warbird stage, avoid approaching within 5 kilometers of Dinatra's warbird, as this will increase the likelihood of her cloaking, which slows down the map and can place time pressure on a lower DPS team. She has a substantial number of hit points. The spheres and probes that spawn in this stage will not beeline for the time portal, so you have some time to defeat them while Dinatra is cloaked. Now, combat footage will be shown to illustrate the principles discussed previously. The goal of this section is not to illustrate perfect piloting, but provide an example of how to successfully complete the map, with all objectives and without dying. Fire at will builds are moderately effective on this map, as there are numerous groups of smaller enemies, but the larger targets like gateways, cubes, transformers, and the warbird at the end will prove more difficult to bring down. In the first stage, attack the central cube. After it's defeated, pick a side and move to it. If you're with a tank or other teammates, stay near them. If you're with a solo or weak side player, we'll illustrate how to fly this map as a solo player in our exotic playthrough of this TFO. That said, while fire at will builds are effective at taking down the probes, don't expect to deal significant damage to a transformer or its attendant ships on your own. I like to start with the transformer farthest from the spawn point, as that places you in better position to intercept probes coming from the gateway. In this case, we took down the transformer and then the assimilator over it, but you could ignore the assimilators initially to focus on structures. This does tend to result in more incoming damage at the gateway stage. Keep an eye out for probes spawning near the gateway. Here I swivel my camera to the center to watch for them even as I focus down the transformer. If you check periodically, you won't be surprised by any probes sneaking past you.
You will become one with the Borg.
Once the first transformer is down, move to the next, being careful to watch for probes attempting to escape. Just like on Infected, use a speed boost to cross the gateway quickly. Remember, this mission is on a timer and you can leave the assimilators or cubes for later while the structures are dealt with. As a fire at will build, you want to spend as little time as possible fighting a single target, so better to deal with multiple at once. Note here that I turned to engage two probes that were starting to escape. You'll want to stay vigilant of this, as it's one of two ways to fail this mission. Once the transformers are down, target the gateway and finish it off. Your damage should easily pick off any probes or spheres near it as well without targeting them. Note that I do take some damage at the second transformer and here at the gateway. This is where you could expect the most incoming damage. Be aware of that and have your survival buttons ready. I'm using reverse shield polarity, but there could be any number of mechanics, as long as it keeps you alive. As a fall build, there's a high chance you will draw aggro, so plan accordingly. Finish off any cubes or assimilators left, then use a speed boost to cross to the other set of gateways and transformers. Notice that our solo player has already dealt with the smaller generators on the first transformer before we arrived, while also intercepting probes. Again, we focused on the cubes before turning on the gateway to make the gateway fight easier, but you could do it either way. You'll still want to keep an eye out for probes and take down each transformer. With the full team here, it should go faster. Once the second gateway and all the Borg ships near are down, move back to the center of the map. Once the Scimitar arrives, that is your main target, but don't be surprised if she cloaks a few times, going invisible and untargetable, even if you stay more than 5 kilometers away from her. While she's hidden, engage the spheres and probes, but Dinatra is the focus when she returns. We're flying very capable ships, and it still takes us at least 90 seconds, so ideally you'll have more time left than that on the initial mission timer.
From this time forward,
When she engages her Thaleron pulse, that big green cone, you'll want to get clear of that area as it does deal significant damage. As we've said, try to stay more than 5 kilometers away from her, as she will cloak more often if approached, but sometimes, as here, it can't be helped. Once the Scimitar and accompanying ships are destroyed within the time limit, the TFO completes. Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play Stowe better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.